You'll hear the terms founder and co-founder thrown around a lot in startup land. But what exactly do they mean? What's the difference between the two? And how do you find a good one? We'll answer those 3 questions and 6 more in this breakdown of everything you need to know about founders and co-founders. This is the FlowConnect channel, and welcome to another Answering Questions series. Hello ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the FlowConnect channel, where we dive into new industries and new startups. With our reviews, we bring more solutions for their future. Today's question is, what is the difference between co-founder versus founder? 1. What is a founder? A founder is a person who comes up with an idea, and then transforms it into a business or startup. Founders can set up a business on their own, or they can do it with others. For example, Larry Page is the founder of Google. 2. What is a co-founder? If a founder sets up a company with other people, they are both a founder and a co-founder. So Larry Page is not only Google's founder but also a co-founder with Sergey Brin. Co-founder is a term that exists to give equal credit to multiple people who start a business together. A co-founder may be part of the vision of a startup from the get-go, or they may be brought on very early by the founder because they have skills the founder is lacking. For example, the founder may have design skills but no engineering skills. In that case, it greatly benefits them to bring on a technical co-founder early in launching their startup. 3. What's the difference between a founder and a CEO? Founder and CEO are 2 other startup titles that people can carry simultaneously. The term founder describes your relationship to the history of the business. William Pietri, startup CTO and lean startup expert, say. Page and Brin will always be Google's founders. The term CEO is about your position in the current organization's hierarchy. Some founders will be CEOs, at least for a while. Pietri points to another difference between CEO and founder. One is a permanent title, while the other is not. You will always be a founder or co-founder, and your title will change, serial entrepreneur Tanis Jorge says. Be sure to be careful, however, how you dole out the founder/co-founder titles. That should be a lifetime title, so be sure it goes to the right people who played a major role in starting the company, and who will continue to play a role in the years to come. Another option is to give yourself the title president, if you have plans to find someone to run your business, say if you are a technical founder. 4. What's the difference between a co-founder and a founding member? Co-founders and founders create the business. They have the most at stake, often contributing their funds to get the company going, and working crazy hours as they push to get the startup off the ground. Especially in the early days, the buck stops with them. A founding member can often feel similar to a founder or co-founder because they come on so early in the process that they're also putting in crazy hours and maybe even taking a pay cut to be a part of something important. But a founding team member is an early employee, not a founder. One important difference: the types of stock the 2 groups receive. Founders' equity is different from employee stock grants. 5. How do you choose the right co-founders? Now that you know the differences between all these terms, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. Most important, how do you choose the right co-founder? The first thing you should do is figure out what skills you're lacking. If you're an engineer, maybe find a designer. If you're an idea guy, definitely find an engineer and a designer. If you already have engineering and design under your belt, look for someone skilled at marketing and managing people. If you're doing a tech startup, the co-founder should have a technical background. If you don't have it, entrepreneur Rui Delgado says. That will save you much money when you're bootstrapping, as well as making sure you deploy a great product as soon as possible. The cliché is that a co-founder relationship is like a marriage. And just like with romantic dating, your best bet is to get them to like you. We mean, like you. People don't join up because you want them to, Pietri says. They join up because they want to join. So how do you make them want you? Start by working out what you have to offer. What is it about you that people will want to follow? And then focus on the startup itself. An idea is generally not going to be brilliant enough to attract a co-founder on its own. Instead, work on figuring out how your startup will be successful, even if it's still more planned than reality. Prove that you can raise funds. Doing that extra bit of work demonstrates to your potential co-founders that you're serious about going beyond startup fantasyland, and lays to rest some fears that they'll inevitably have. Serial entrepreneur Tom Williams suggests sticking to your networks when you're looking for a co-founder. I'm unconvinced that two people can find a person they haven't known previously and become effective co-founders, Williams says. I think you're better off finding the money to hire someone than find a co-founder. The main reason? You probably won't find someone as passionate as you are about what you're building. And keep in mind, I have no idea who you are or what you're building, so that's no judgment on you or the idea, just the reality I've observed over 20 years of startups. Finally, Pietri says to be careful about jumping immediately to co-founder when there may be other options. Co-founder is partners, almost family, he says. Too many people say they want a co-founder, when really what they want is an employee who will work for free. If you want an employee, pay them. Partnerships that aren't true partnerships end up a mess for everybody. 6. How many founders should a startup have? The ideal number of founders is either 2 or 3, except occasionally made for 4, depending on the startup and the team. Being an alone founder can be tricky. Not only is it hard to have everything on your shoulders, but it's also unlikely that you possess all the skills that your startup needs to succeed. And more than 3 or 4 will leave you with a too many cooks in the kitchen situation. 7. How do you figure out co-founder titles? When you're figuring out what to call yourself, who's the CEO? Who's the CTO? Who's the head of sales? The most important thing is to focus on what each person brings to the table. If you've done an excellent job at your co-founder search, it's already pretty clear what people's skills are. The technical guy is the CTO. The money is guy is the CEO. The people guy is head of marketing. Also, this should go without saying, but we're going to tell it anyway, give yourselves average titles. There was a trend for a while of startups giving their team members quirky titles. All that does is make things confusing for everyone else, including your potential investors, so please, stick to the common ones. 8. What do you do with late co-founders? If someone has come along a little later in the game but still early, as in, pre-first employee, then you treat the same any other co-founder. If you're choosing to add a co-founder after you already have employees, though, things can get a little tricky. Your employees may feel put out because this newcomer brings a higher title and potentially a higher level of respect than when they were asked to take on more risk by coming on earlier. So if you have someone you need for your company to go forward, you want to bring on in a significant way. Still, it's too late to give them the co-founder title, which is mainly symbolic anyway. It doesn't have legal implications. Provide them with a title that matches what they're bringing to the table. Make them your CTO or head of content, or president of sales. Whatever their skill is, make that the focus, not the fact that they're not a co-founder. 9. How do you protect your startup from co-founder conflict? Some conflict is inevitable, of course. Startup founders are only humans, and will usually have slightly different goals, tactics, and skills than their co-founders. But Megdad Abazadegan, who walked away from his startup, Feel Free, after it fell apart due to co-founder conflict, has worked out 3 things all founders can do to protect their startup. 1. Get an operating founders agreement in place. Verbal agreements aren't enough. My co-founder and I formed several oral contracts at the beginning of our partnership. When Feel Free faced more complex decisions, those verbal agreements fell short. Facebook, one of the most successful startups of our age, struggled through an ugly legal battle after the Winklevoss twins claimed CEO Mark Zuckerberg made a verbal agreement to give them equity in the company. Zuckerberg eventually prevailed, but there's no doubt the Winklevoss brothers wish they had more than a verbal agreement. 2. Start with a simple approach when it comes to a co-founder agreement. If you're not ready to put an operating founder's agreement in place, you'd still be wise to get some understanding in writing. A simple one-page co-founder agreement that indicates responsibilities while outlining company structure and operations can do a lot to ease tensions down the road. Skip the legalese and parties of the first part in favor of straightforward language that lets everyone know exactly what's expected. 3. Make sure you own all outsourced work. We had a designer on our team who created all of our brandings. We had promised him equity in the company, but we never had a formal founder's agreement in place that his work would belong to Feel Free. When our co-founder conflict sparked, he decided not to sign his work to the company to protect himself. Create a solid agreement with any contractors to help them feel protected and ensure your company's future. In retrospect, I wish my co-founder and I had put our verbal agreements, with each other and our employees, into writing so we could have avoided any conflict in the first place.